Nature has written a letter of credit upon some men's faces that is honored wherever presented. You cannot help trusting such men. Their very presence gives confidence. There is promise to pay in their faces, which give confidence, and you prefer it to another man's endorsement. That quote is by William Makepeace Thackeray, a 19th century philosopher writer. He says, nature has written a letter of credit upon some men's faces. One of such men in our generation is Elder Felix Ohiwere, who is the subject matter of this biography, Reigning by His Grace, authored by Professor Emmanuel Emeagonu. I welcome you to this program, Reigning by His Grace. And like I said, on set on this program is the biographer, the writer, the author of this book that I'm holding in my hand, and his name is Professor Emmanuel Emeagonu. Prof, you are welcome onto this program.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me.
Briefly, our guest on this program, Professor Emmanuel Emeagonu, was born 51 years ago. He's a lecturer in Southern Connecticut State University, United States of America. He is a professor of international accounting, accounting information systems, fraud and forensic accounting. He has taught in leading universities across the world. A few of them include Howard University, Washington, USA, Sacred Heart University, Connecticut, USA, Yale University, USA, Covenant University here in Nigeria, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, and so very many others. He is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN. He believes in the practice of good business ethics and sound corporate governance principles as an antidote to corruption. Prof, you are welcome onto this program.
Thank you very much, sir, once again.
I don't know, your specialization is in the area of fraud and forensic accounting. Sometimes I wonder what you are doing back there in the United States, instead of coming to join forces with the EFCC and the ICPC to help in fighting corruption in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. I can actually fight corruption in Nigeria from anywhere. In today's age, there are technological tools you can use in combating corruption. You can do it anywhere. But of course, you know that it also depends on the invitation, who invites you and asks for your involvement. I have been doing some training here in Nigeria from time to time with a number of regulatory agencies. Granted, not yet with EFCC or ICPC, but I've trained for NDIC. I just came back from Abuja where I did some training for the CBN, and then Federal Inland Revenue Service also. So I have been contributing my quota to what's enhancing the effectiveness of regulatory agencies here in Nigeria.
See, well, corollary to that, let me just ask, if you are so passionate about reading the business world, you are so passionate about ridding society of corruption, how do you feel being in Nigeria at this time? Nigeria, whose corruption perception index is so notorious for its consistency at the bottom of the index ladder?
That is very interesting. About 7 years ago, the presiding bishop of the Winners Chapel, Bishop David Oyedepo, had asked me to give a lecture when I was doing my sabbatical at Covenant University, and that was the topic. At that particular time, there was a year when Nigeria ranked #1 in church attendance in the world, and ranked the very last when it comes to the corruption perception index, which Transparency International published. I reflected that in my lecture, which he actually went on to reflect in one of his sermons, and he called it a paradox, which is what it is. On one hand, we have a country where people appear very pious and godly, a lot of religious activities, but on the other hand, when you look at measures like the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, then Nigeria was near the very bottom. It's improved a little bit now. I see that also as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to take on that challenge and begin to turn the tide. No nation, in my opinion, makes genuine progress on a faulty foundation. And whatever you build on fraud, whatever you build on dishonesty, is a faulty foundation. You cannot build anything of lasting value there. So there's an opportunity for like-minded individuals, churches, ministries, to get together and begin to combat the plague, really, of corruption. And outlets like yours, Dove Media, they are uniquely qualified and situated to take on that struggle, because the Christian mission of preaching the gospel contains within it the need to bring about people doing things rightly, people doing things the right way. Probity, integrity, honesty, and let me put the Bible. The Bible says that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. So sin includes corruption, includes fraud. Nobody likes to go through airports being stripped and searched because you're a Nigerian. And I do know that many Nigerians will want to have that image changed, but it begins with the individual, and then to the family, then to the community, then to the nation. And I think that the Christian church is uniquely positioned to lead the charge for that struggle, that fight.
Oh, thank you very much, Prof. Well, let's back to the subject now. You are the author of this biography on Elder Felix Ohiwere, and the title is Winning by His Grace. I don't know, are you talking about winning by the grace of Elder Felix Ohiwere, or winning by the grace of
winning by the grace of God, winning by the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ? That's what we had in mind when we adopted that title.
And in this particular respect, who is the winner?
The winner is Elder Felix Ohiwere, but it's also anybody who can avail themselves of the grace of God is also a winner.
Thank you very much, Prof. Now, the next question I want to ask you is, number one, what inspired the choice of the person of Elder Felix Ohiwere? You are a professor of accounting. How did you become a biographer? And why Elder Felix Ohiwere?
Thank you very much for that question. When I got to know him and started relating with him, it wasn't for the purpose of writing his biography. There was actually a story that led to how we connected. In 2002, I was part of a Christian mission team to Uganda. Then Uganda was in the news a lot because of the AIDS pandemic that was ravaging the country. So a group of us, under the auspices of the African Christian Fellowship, a non-governmental Christian-based organization in the United States, which coincidentally then I was leading in the East region of the United States. That's about 16 states from Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., New York, Massachusetts, Maine, and on and on. So we went as a team to Uganda, and I was touched when I saw some young people, some of them 18, who were heading households, and we shared with them whatever we had, and then preached the gospel to them. But it dawned on me that you needed to do something of a more lasting economic nature to create jobs and the like, so that young people can be gainfully employed. Because some of the problems the young girls had in Uganda, some of them had become orphaned at very young ages, and therefore, and they had younger siblings that were depending on them. So if men would come to them under that situation and they offered them money and so on, it was very difficult, no matter how strong-willed you are when you are confronted with that. So I started thinking about how to mobilize Africans in the diaspora to get involved economically in their countries. And at that time, he was the chairman of the Presidential Commission, the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council or Commission it was. So, and through a friend of mine, Ogwazi Onyemobi, who knows him very well, I contacted him for his advice. And that was how we started relating. But in course of our interactions, I started seeing in him some qualities and attributes that were quite rare by any standard. So I then came to the conclusion over a period of time that it would be good to profile and chronicle this so that young people, others will know that, first of all, it's possible to operate in the business arena in an environment like Nigeria and do that with the highest level of integrity. Integrity and still succeed.
Yes, really. Many people see Elder Felix Ohiwere as Mr. Integrity. However, in the moral wilderness that Nigeria appears to have become, why has integrity become such a very rare character trait, especially for people in leadership positions?
There are several factors. And it's very difficult to tie it particularly to one particular factor. If you look at the recent history of Nigeria, you generally tend to find out that some of the older individuals, like people in their 60s and so on and so forth, they tended to have some attributes, some character attributes that mark them out as people of integrity, more than I would say you find around. Some attribute that to the mission training. Many of them went to schools that were run by missionaries, and therefore they earlier on they were taught very godly principles. Some attribute it to family background. Many will tell you times when if you brought something, your parents will ask you, where did you get this thing from? And if you couldn't justify it, they were not interested in having anything to do with you. Some will attribute that to the cohesive nature of society in some years gone by, when a cohesive community, everybody knows everybody, and they abhorred traits like stealing and the like. So therefore,
your brother's keeper.
You are your brother's keeper, and everybody looked out for each other, and you can discipline some other person's child if they misbehave, and there were stigmas attached to certain kinds of behaviors, certain kinds of individuals, and those are just some of the factors that that have been used as explanatory variables for the fact that there seems to be a breaking down of society when it comes to things like integrity and so on. After I did this book, there's actually another book I'm working on now, which I'm profiling a number of people. I sat down with a friend, Pastor Tommy. I wanted his help in identifying for me people of a good integrity in Nigeria. We went over the list, and then at some point I called and said, "Pat, did you notice that everybody here on this list is over 50?" So I said, "No, I wanted him to help me identify some younger people." And he thought very hard, very hard, and it was very difficult. And that was some cause of concern, because obviously we have people like Dohiwere, we have people like Dr. Kolade, people like Dikin Onosede, and so on and so forth. But where are the young people, who is stepping in to fill that the gap, that will be created when eventually these men step aside?
Actually, as you started talking, all these people that you mentioned, Dr. Hiwere, Dr. Christopher Kolade, Gamale Onosode, I've had cause in the course of my media work to meet with them one-on-one.
Yeah, people like Akintola Williams too. And so
what comes forth to me from them is their conservative worldview, which takes me back to your concern. The list that you succeeded in drawing up of people of integrity in Nigeria are people well over 50 years. The question I want therefore to ask is, people like Elder Hiwere, some people believe that their worldview is too conservative for them to be able to be role models for the younger generation. Is that a problem?
I don't think so. Integrity, character is timeless. Integrity is an enduring value. and it's also not so, it's timeless basically. If you take Joseph in the Bible, was a very young man. He got a very tempting offer. He resisted that, and that set him apart. You know, if by conservatism people mean that somebody adheres to good ethics, integrity, and character, then we should all be conservative. Whether you're young or old, it doesn't really, shouldn't affect that. The other thing is, it makes it easier to draw a contrast, you know, between what will endure and what will not. You know, young people can be attracted to quick money, quick fame, and getting things without bothering how you get it. But if you look over and over, towards the end of the book, for instance, you know, I made a comparison between Elder Felix Ohiwere and a well-known American businessman who is now in jail for life, who had a quick, you know, he made money and so on and so forth, but has ended very, very badly for him. And that you see that happen all the time, both in Nigeria, all over the world, when people seem to be getting somewhere very, very quickly. You know, you have it in the world of athletics. Somebody starts taking performance-enhancing drugs, wins medals. You know, people who are a little bit older in Nigeria will remember Ben Johnson, who supposedly won the 100 meters gold in Canada, only to have him, you know, a Canadian, only to have him stripped of the title. They can remember people like Marion Jones, and on and on and on. In the business world here, you know, there are individuals who seem to have been on the fast track, but came down crashing very quickly. But when you build on solid ground, when you build on integrity, you know, then you can rest assured that what you're building will last, and not like the Benny Madoffs of this world and some of the other people who just spring up today and then tomorrow they're not there because they disdained these so-called conservative values.
All right, thank you. Well, integrity, yes. Godliness is another character attribute that you mentioned in the course of your talking about Elder Ohiwere. I wonder, on page 236 of this book, you said something about Elder Ohiwere, and let me quote. He was always conscious of his need for God, and prayer was something that Elder Felix Ohiwere took seriously. I want to ask, is it really possible to be genuinely godly and prayerful as a businessman in an environment, in the world of today? Genuinely godly and prayerful.
My short answer to that is yes. And that is what he has exemplified with his life. That he is a successful corporate icon in Nigeria and beyond is in no doubt. The very first chapter of the book looks empirically at his track record of performance in the corporate world, managing blue chip companies. So there's no doubt as to whether he was a successful corporate manager. There's no doubt about that. Then when you look at his devotional life, there's also no doubt about that. So he exemplifies with his life, that the answer to that question is yes, it is possible to lead a godly life, do things right, and also succeed doing it.
Well, I don't want to be a hypocrite on this program.
Go ahead, please.
Elder Ohiwere is my daddy in the Lord. Elder Ohiwere is the chairman of World of Media, where I work. But as I was growing up in the university, for instance, there are some of these personalities that we just assumed that no, all of these people, there must be a power outside of God that is propelling them. And we just concluded then that Elder Ohiwere definitely must be in the cult. Has this crossed your mind, the possibility of him being in the cult?
Yes. During the many interviews I had with him, I was asking him questions round about that issue. Then he cut right through. Oh, you are too afraid to ask that. I was asking questions around that issue. Then he cut right through to it and said, do you want to know whether I'm in the cult? I didn't tell him no. I kept quiet because I needed to get the answer, So he said, no, I'm not in the cult. But they have made efforts to recruit me. He said they made efforts to recruit him, especially after he became like the marketing director for Nigerian breweries, that they made effort. And he also added that one of those, of course he rebuffed the effort, one of those eventually left the cult and became a Christian much later in life. But the interesting thing I learned from that is this. Okay, he was rising rapidly in the corporate ladder. So when he got to be like marketing director, then the courts wanted to recruit him. Of course, if they had recruited him successfully, they would have turned around to people and say, if you want to succeed in life, come and join us. Can't you see, this man? And then, of course, he later became the managing director, CEO, and later chairman of that very big company. So they would have added him to their list of successful people who belong to their court, and then use that to as a bait to other people to say, if you want to become successful, it would be more interesting if the courts would go to like some people who are struggling in their careers, and then let's see. So that was personally one lesson I learned from that, and say, you have this trend where courts go to people who are successful already, and then if they convince them and they join them, then they will turn around and showcase them to others and say, come and join us, and you'll be successful. So yes, I did ask him that question. During the interviews, I obviously got to interact very well with him, and I asked blunt questions, and there was a point I was ready all through the very end, assuming he turned out not being the man I thought he was. I was ready to walk away, assuming, let's say when I started digging and asking, I spoke to his secondary school classmates and friends. I spoke to his classmates in the university. I even spoke to Professor Mabugunje, who was his teacher at University of Ibadan. Professor Mabugunja, I think, is the first professor of geography in Nigeria and so on. I spoke to the GO, Pastor Deboye, and I spoke to all manner of individuals, trying to get at the essence of the man. So with all that, not once did I come across first of all, when I did my own research on some of the things he told me, let me just share this. There was a story he told me about when Harold Macmillan, the former British Prime Minister, was visiting Nigeria. He was a student then, so he took part in demonstration against him because, students, what else do? They demonstrate against dignitaries and so on and so forth. So he told me a story. He said that one person, one of their students, had a placard, and on that placard, what was written on it was, it said, "Mac Butcher, go home." Macmillan, so Mac Butcher, go home. I researched as much as possible, everything, because I wanted everything written in that book to stand up. So I researched, and I knew that Harold Macmillan actually visited Nigeria. He was on his way to South Africa, where he gave a speech, Wind of Change, which is a historical document, where basically was telling his countrymen that there's a wind of countrymen and women, that there's a wind of change blowing all over Africa, and that the time has come for them to let go of colonization and grant independence to African countries. So it was on that trip he visited Ghana and then also visited Nigeria. And in Nigeria, he came to Ibadan. But, I still kept researching until in my local library in Hamden in Connecticut, I came across a book that was written about Harold Macmillan. And then they reported about his visit to Ibadan. And then they reported there that one of the, that the students protested against him, and that one of the placards the student was carrying had written on it, Mac Butcher, go home. Then his biographer said that when he got there, he said he read every of those placards, and when he got to that one, he stopped, and then he read it, and then continued. So when I saw that, it's like, wow, because up to the minutest detail of what he told me, I could confirm, either from his schoolmate or from his teachers or from his colleagues at work at different levels, or from his friends, people like Dr. Kolade, or from very publicly available sources. So in course of doing all that, I came to the conclusion that this man is actually more than what people know about him. You work with him, you have an idea, some of what I'm talking about. The level of integrity he exhibits in virtually every aspect of his life is unbelievable.
You mentioned his tenure as marketing director of Nigerian Breweries. That's one of the areas I used to have problems with back then in school. This is an elder, very visible elder in the church, in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, that is globally acclaimed to be a holiness church. And here was the same elder being the chief marketer of alcohol as the marketing director of Nigerian Breweries. At that time, I was having problems. Did you have problem with that?
Yes, I asked him that also. Like I told you, the interviews were frank. I asked him that, and he gave me, in his characteristic manner, he gave me a frank answer also. He when he finished from University of Ibadan, he had the option of working in a number of places. Remember that his father was a clergyman in the Anglican Church. He told me that one of his sisters, I remember, objected to his choice of work. Then also remember that he was not a member of Redeemed, Christian Church of God. Then his father weighed in on the issue and said, that he had given them sufficient training that they should, each of them should be able to stand on their own and make the right decision. So after that, the sister backed away. So he started working with Nigerian breweries. Now, when subsequently he became a born-again Christian, and he told me he went to God in prayers and told God that he was willing to leave if, but he told
he was
me,
willing to leave that lucrative office.
Yes. If but what the response he got, which is also in the book, he said, that God told him, "Have I asked you to leave yet?" In other words, he was there not because of any fears about losing any material gain, but he believed that as at the time he was there, that God had not expressed a wish known to him to leave that place of employment. So, like I said, I asked him because I know that that's a concern people have, and so on and so forth, because people, especially in our climate, in our environment, and he had considered it, and that was the answer he gave to me.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, in the foreword to this biography, Dr. Christopher Kolade himself a tested corporate icon, and indeed the former Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, did allude to the possibility that Elder Ohiwere is one of those personages that could have fixed Nigeria. In other words, if Elder Ohiwere had decided to foray into political leadership of Nigeria, under him, Nigeria would probably have done better. Coming from a personality with the stature and discipline of Dr. Christopher Kolade, I thought that was enough encouragement for Elder to actually try his hand as political leadership of Nigeria. Did you discuss that with him?
It comes up not exactly in that. It comes up not exactly like me asking him why haven't you gone into politics, but it comes up occasionally when he airs his views about like some close friends who have either gone to, into politics or who have accepted to serve in some
political office.
Office. Quite frankly, I agree with what Dr. Kolade said, that it would take men like that to fix Nigeria. It would take men like that to fix Nigeria. And when you look at the instances when Elder Ohiwere had been involved in the public sector service, like when he was the chairman of council of the University of Ibadan, the way he transformed the place, the tenure, his tenure there was very transformational.
We are talking about we as a people. One of the questions I was asking you, many people have seen Nigeria as being a place of moral wilderness. So if men like Elder Hiwere, the Onosades of this world, are waiting for the people to create the avenue for them to attain that political leadership, it's like Nigeria will wait forever, don't you think?
It is tough. It is tough because the current system of governance we have makes it very difficult for honest individuals to emerge. On the other hand, if the honest individuals do not emerge, we will likely be in the moral wilderness for a long time, because you cannot give what you don't have. If some corrupt person enters office, they will be corrupt. So it's very, very tough in the sense that one might argue to say the people of goodwill, the right kind of people, should put themselves in there and hang in there and on and on and on. But it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. And if it were that easy, somebody would have done it. But I also do believe that, I do believe that really that more men and women of goodwill need to get involved. They need to get involved, not necessarily by running for elective offices, but when you are there, your presence can mitigate some of the rough edges and some of the excesses, let me just put it in plain language. If there are some people who, if they are in the midst, right? If the politicians would have shared 100% of the resources, right? Because of the presence of those people, maybe they will share 60% and leave 40. I'm being very hypothetical, but you get the idea. So, at this stage in my life, I really believe that the time has come for men and women of goodwill to take more interest in what goes on around them in terms of governance and the like, because the surest way to get it right is when you have the right people in those positions. If you have somebody who has had the opportunity of amassing wealth, has never done it, he's not likely going to begin it when he gets into governance. That's public sector governance, that is.
Thank you very much. Before you know it, 1 hour is already gone. Maybe I should ask you. You are the author of this biography, Winning by His Grace, Winning by the Grace of God. Why should I want to pick a copy? Why should I want to have a personal copy of this book?
Thank you very much, sir, for that question. There are a number of reasons. The life story of the subject is very captivating and compelling. It's always good to read about other people, especially people who live well and people who have accomplished great things. You can agree with me that within Nigeria and even beyond the West Africa and others, when you are drawing up the list of the leading corporate leaders in Nigeria, it will be incomplete if Felix Ohiwere's name is not there. Just by if you look at the sheer magnitude of what he has accomplished, chairman Unilever, chairman Virgin Nigeria, chairman Nigerian Breweries, chairman eTransact, and on.
Chairman World of Media.
World of Media. No, I will never omit that. Chairman World of Media, chairman ARM, chairman FITSIN, and on and on and on. And it's not just that he chairs these boards and all that. If, like I said earlier, in chapter 1, I'm an accounting professor and I like numbers. You know, you have to demonstrate things by numbers. In the first chapter, that was what we did. We demonstrated by numbers. You know, in some cases, when he takes over as the chairman of a company, within a few short years, both the revenue or turnover and the profits will increase by hundreds of percent and so on. You know, is it FITSIN? Is it ARM? Is it Nigerian Breweries? And on and on and on. Looking at Dove Media, I was telling you, seeing the growth of it. There is something about him, like with their Makepeace Thackeray quote you started with, that when you commit things into his hand, you know, they blossom and they grow. So to have that track record of accomplishment, and then also to do it with the highest level of integrity for young people who aim to do great things. It's always good to read a biography like this. For people who are struggling with making the right choices in life
and maintaining proper balance,
you know, it's always a good thing. I have a man in my church. I attend International Church at Yale, which meets on the Yale campus. Our founding elder, leader, is in his 80s. His name is Hugh Hedges. After reading this book, you know, he has marked it over and over and over. Now, this is a white American man. He's older than Felix. You know, he's a Christian gentleman. But whenever he sees me, he talks to me about, you know, he was an architect, coincidentally. He was actually his architectural firm, coincidentally. They were the ones that would have drawn the master plan of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Ikeja. You know, as things happened, he has actually shown me the draft of that design that they did and all that. So he says that reading the book reminded him times in his career when he came face to face with ethical dilemmas, and reading the book
and the temptation to compromise.
And reading the book reassures him that he made the right decisions during those times. So this is somebody in his 80s. People who are much younger, all across, you know, who have read the book, have gotten feedback on how it has impacted them. One person who was going to teach a class, this is a minister, missionary, at the Dallas Theological Seminary, actually recommended this as a recommended reading for his student.
Oh. This book has taught me that I should do everything with all my heart, and also invite the Holy Spirit to help me in every decision I have to make every step of the way. This book now has taught me several things. Like Mr. Felix did in achieving his career growth. He has taught me, even though I haven't met him and I haven't had interaction with him, this book has taught me that I can make it in life despite the situations around me.
I will ask all parents, you know, to grab a copy of this book, Winning by His Grace, to go through the book and read it, and even if possible, to give to our kids by the time they are age, say 13, 14, 15, you know, because these are live, true history. You know, you can feel, you can see the person we are talking about, you know. So I would really recommend it for everybody to go through it. And also for those of us that want to build career.
Felix Ohiwere, as you know, is somebody that highly respected in the marketplace. And the reason why I have a particular interest and respect and love for him is because he probably, more than anybody else I know, represents that combination of integrity and success in a marketplace in a way that shows that it is possible to fear God and at the same time, to succeed at what you set your hands to do. It's possible to walk with God in a marketplace. He's a true apostle of righteousness in the marketplace.
And for someone who rose to the peak of his career in the corporate world without getting his reputation or his image tainted, really drew my attention. That for our generation, there's a need for people to read this book and know that, yes, indeed, God can help you reach the top without soiling your reputation.
Is a person who thinks very clearly, who develops a strategy for getting where he wants to go, and who is passionate and committed in pursuit of those goals that he has set out to accomplish. There's also the humility and the desire to think of others in acting. On top of all of this, that glue that binds all that goes well, integrity. So that he has come to personify integrity and diligence, duty, and sacrificial giving of self for the good of others.
The people we see who become elders, who become chief executives and so on, started as children in a family. And when a child has a good upbringing, the best thing for that child is to retain the quality of that upbringing as he grows up, as he becomes mature. And that is one thing I want people to learn from Felix Ohiwere, that he received a very good upbringing as a child. And he stuck to those values and those principles and standards as he came up in the world, and as he went to different occupations and different places, he did not lose track.
Thank you, Prof. I'm afraid I've been told that we really will not be able to go beyond this point. Yes, except to just remark that, yes, in my work at World Dove Media, Dove Television, I've had to work very closely with Elder Felix Ohiwere as my chairman. And he keeps reminding me, at some points when I begin to have misgivings, see, daily, nothing succeeds like success. It really doesn't matter what you may be going through. Teething period of any enterprise, keep at it. By the time you begin to succeed, you will discover that people forget where you are coming from, what they will be seeing with the success. And I think it's on that positive encouragement that I want to say thank you to Professor Emmanuel Emeonu, and to say that you did a very excellent work.
Thank you very much.
And that the good Lord will continue to prosper you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, until I come your way again, on behalf of Professor Emeonu, and indeed, Daddy, Elder Felix Ohiwere, I say good evening.